or you say hope I find you. I'm going to present my machine learning model which I was working on. Right, so basically my app is based on a Streamlight app. Right, that's the one that I'm going to be using to run my Python file. Right, so it's Streamlight run, and then the name of my machine learning my file, right, that contains all my Python files, right, which I'm going to use to run my model, right, is new model dot py, right. So this is the web page, right, that I'm going to be using to show the predictions of my machine learning model that I was working on, right. So it's based on FIFA machine learning prediction model, right. So I've got a few attributes that I'm using to predict the overall rating of each player. So I've got age, physique, power shot, potential, and skill moves of my player, right. So these attributes have a positive correlation in between them and the dependent attribute, which is overall rating, right. So these are the independent variables, and overall rating is basically the dependent variable, right. So let's take an example. I'm going to take my age. Yes, I'm going to show how the model works, right. So that let's say I have age 20, and the physique is rated at around 89, and then the power shot is rated about around 88, and then the potential of the player, right, is rated at 90, and then you've got the skill moves of the player, right. So the skill moves, let's say 77, right. So we want to check the prediction, right, with respect to these attributes of the player. Right. So the attributes, the rating of the attributes is the overall rating is 76%, right, with respect to the attribute that I've given. So let's take another example. Let's say I've got my 18 is the age of the player, and then the physique is 88, and then the power shot is 77, right, and then you've got the potential of the player, let's say it's 90, and you've got the skill moves of the player 77, right. Let's predict, right. So this one is rated 372, right. So we need to show the relationship, to show if the age of the player, if the age of the player, let's say is around 25, what would be the prediction, the overall rating of the player, right, whilst we are keeping physique, power shot, potential, skill moves a constant, right. So let's say we've got the rating at 28 of the player. Let's say and we see that the overall rating increases by 1%, right. We might say this is true, right. Why would we say that our model is working when we've changed, let's say, only age, right? We would say, let's take for example, a player has got a player at the age of 18, right, he's got less experience than the player who's at the age of 28, right. That means someone who's got experience, he's got fans, right, and then and also experience in terms of playing in the field, right. That means to some extent other attributes like the physique, power shot potential, and skill moves are enhanced, right, due to the experience of the player, right? So by intuition, we will say that yeah, the wow model is really working, right? Let's take for example, we reduce the physique of the player. Let's say we reduce it to 10, right? What is it? Our overrating going to be, right? You see, if we reduce the physical strength, or the physique basically of the player, if we reduce the physique of the player, you see our rating reduced from around 70 to 65, right? The overall rating, right? It makes sense to some extent. Why? If of course, if the physique of the player reduces, right, that means the performance of him or her in the field will definitely what decreases, right? Let's take for example about the potential of our player, right? Now it's at 90, let's reduce it to say 20, right? What would be the overall rating of that player, right? You see, also we notice that the overall rating of the player also reduce, alright? So we will see that the output will match with our intuition, with our thinking, right? To say that it is true that if the potential of the player, decreases, also the overall rating of the player decreases, right? Let's increase the potential of the players and see what will be the overall rating of the player, right? Let's take an example. If we're going to take the potential of the player to be around 10, and then the skill moves to be around 8, right? So let's predict. You see, the overall rating of the player, it also increases, right? So I might say in conclusion, our module is perfectly working. It gives us the results which we know to some extent that they are true, right? So I might say thank you. This is the end of the recording. Thank you, sir.